of what you want to achieve with this personalized customer communication, digital sales, and how you want to build customer journeys. Because if you don't have that, it's not very easy to lead any digital transformation. And then secondly, you should need to understand all your pain points. So where do you lag behind and where are you in front? What do you need to develop? What competences do you need to get on board? Because you might not have the right colleagues, the right people. And then you should, of course, make this roadmap to just say, okay, what should we develop in what order to get ready? And then one actually quite good achievement that we did was to bring the digital people who had the website and the web channels together with the CRM team. So we put them all together in one team.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the European Customer Experience Organization. This session is the executive session, what we call, and today is sponsored by SAS, or Gold Sponsor, which empowers better outcomes. I am Ricardo Gulco, the MD of a company called Z Globalis, and also the co-founder of ECXO, the European Customer Experience Organization. And we are a no-profit organization, independent, open access for CX professionals business network. We connect people, business together. Our goal is to educate. Okay, so next year we are launching our certification program or educational program for all corporates around Europe and around the globe. We have a special group of guests today. In Stockholm, we have the IHM Business School, which is supposedly watching us. So hello everyone there, and thank you very much for watching us. How we are going to manage the questions? So Andreas will lead the conversation with Anne and Mr. Navin, and I'm going to in the end, when we get to 40-45 minutes, so if you have one amazing question that is really to the time that they are speaking, that will add value, so then we can also ask your question during the time, okay? But the preference of all the panelists is to be in the end. So I'm going to bother Andreas all the time to get the questions answered. So let me introduce our guests today, our panelists. Anne Friesgaard Jacobsen, Director of Customer Experience and Leads at Jysk Bank. I hope I said that correct. The third largest financial organization in Denmark. We have Mr. Navin Chandra, Global Vice President at Data Curate. He's currently in India, but he works worldwide. And you have Andreas Hens, the Director of Marketing Technology and Personalization Solutions in EMEA and APAC at SAS. And he is also going to be our facilitator today. So I can ensure that we're in great hands, not good hands, but great hands. I have a question for all of you, and I would like to think as we start the webinar today. Can a customer data platform improve really customer experience, or just maybe not? Those are the guys that will answer for you. Thank you very much, Andreas. The show is totally yours.
Thank you, Ricardo, and welcome from my side as well. And thanks for joining. So, can a customer data platform improve your customer experience? I'll start with my first take on this. So, absolutely, yes, it can. Right? I think for all of us, so that we have the same understanding. customer data platform obviously helps us bring together all the various different data sources and making sure that we can properly orchestrate what we are doing with all the various data that we currently have available, right? So my take on this is a firm yes, it absolutely can. Anna, do you agree with me, or do you have any other views?
Yes, I do agree. The customer data platform makes it possible to gather different kinds of data, behavioral data, customer data, product data, in one unified view, and that's what you need to make great customer experiences. So yeah, I do agree.
Absolutely. And Navin, any thoughts from you? You obviously consult a lot of different organizations, so you see a lot of different activities and approaches. Your take on this?
Yeah, Andreas, actually, yes, a customer data platform not only enhances customer experience, but I would say it's inevitable in today's times to have a CDP, because this is a one-stop shop, a single platform which can integrate everything right from your content to your campaigns to your customer data to the experiences. So it's I think inevitable to have for any business in today's times.
Excellent. So I guess, so we all agree to this, and I'm assuming most of the people in the call will agree to this as well. Now, talking about this is easier than actually doing it, right? And really happy to have Anna here from Jyske Bank, who has been doing these transformations in the last couple of months, right? So what would you say, what is required to kind of, lead that digitalization that you're going through at Jyske Bank?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's really important to have this clear vision of what you want to achieve with this personalized customer communication, digital sales, and how you want to build customer journeys. Because if you don't have that, it's not very easy to lead any digital transformation. And then secondly, you should need to understand all your pain points. So where do you lag behind and where are you in front? What do you need to develop? What competences do you need to get on board? Because you might not have the right colleagues, the right people. And then you should, of course, make this roadmap to just say, okay, what should we develop in what order to get ready? And then one actually quite good achievement that we did was to bring the digital people who had the website and the web channels together with the CRM team. So we put them all together in one team. And that is really important when you have to build this omnichannel and coherent customer journeys across channels. So that's definitely one of the things I think is required as well. And of course, last, top management commitment, because if you don't have that, you don't have the resources and the focus and the commitment. Yeah.
Excellent. So I think so what you're saying is it's not necessarily only technology, but technology is actually only a small part of the transformation, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what would you say? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll just say you can have great technology if you don't have any people who can use it, and if you don't have the right people together, because to make these great customer experiences, it's a new kind of mindset you have to put onto your communication and your digital sales, and that's what you are capable of when you get the right people together.
So it's a lot about breaking down silos and bringing people together, essentially, right?
Yes, definitely.
What would you say then is, so, when you mentioned, like, as a best practice from an organizational point of view, also bringing people together under one roof, I would call it, right?
Exactly.
What would you say are some of the biggest pitfalls that, maybe you experience those pitfalls, right? And what would you recommend other people to look out for that they are not actually falling in there?
Well, one just really practical and though very important practical we did discover was that in the beginning, when we were designing these customer journeys, we designed them very big and exactly how we dreamt of them. So we wouldn't know the effects before we did build the whole customer journey. So I think my 50 cents here is that you should design big, think big, just as you desire, but you should start small and add steps, communication channels, and retargeting along the way. So when you see the effect of the first things, then you add new communication, new channels, and so on. Because otherwise you will have a lot of work that you might need to redo.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really starting small and then kind of growing, right?
Yeah.
Navin, do you have any experience to share on that approach from your side?
Yeah, sure, Andreas. So you talked about some key pitfalls to be avoided. So I think the 2 or 3 that I can think of based on my experience is one, the lack of planning. So as they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So which means that we need to be very carefully planning and ensure that the messaging and the communication we send out to the customers are highly personalized and relevant, because otherwise the customers may feel undervalued and it could lead to their disengagement. So that is the first pitfall. The second pitfall is conducting communications via different channels in standalone manner, meaning the channels are not integrated. If a person walks into a bank branch, for example, he gets an experience X, but when he gets onto the mobile app of the bank, the experience is different. And likewise, if he goes to the website, it could be something else. So it could be very confusing and frustrating for customers if the experience is not consistent and the tonality is not the same. That is the second thing. And last but not the least, I think ignoring the cybersecurity aspect could be a blunder, because that could lead to a lot of legal issues, reputation losses, and trust deficit with customers. Because with regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, and many other local, geographical, and industry regulations, I think we could land in soup if we do not take care of cybersecurity. So these are the 3 pitfalls in my view should be avoided.
Excellent, and I appreciate your insight. So let me pick up on the relevance of this, right? Because people who know me know I talk about relevance all the time, because I think at the end of the day, what is the main goal of having a good customer experience is to send relevant messages and to communicate in a relevant way to your customers, right? Because nobody is going to turn down a relevant communication, but people get super frustrated if they just get spammed with non-relevant communication, right? So obviously now I'm gonna people know I'm from SAS and we are in an analytical company, right? So I'm kind of going to ask the question in the round what your view is on how can analytics and behavioral data help in creating those relevant messages. I'll start with you again, Navin. Any views on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Andreas. So you very rightly mentioned, so data analytics and machine learning and AI goes a long way in enhancing customer experience. So by analyzing data from different sources, different channels around customer interactions or transaction histories, browsing behaviors, very hyper personalized offers can be created for customers. And some of the examples that I can think of is, for example, a bank can make a right recommendation for a credit card or a loan based on the customer's transaction behavior and credit history. Similarly, a very compelling investment portfolio can be recommended based on a certain customer's savings potential and risk tolerance. And now with geo tagging possible, very relevant and exciting offers can be sent to customers in real time based on their location and their preferences and their interests.
Wonderful, yeah. So we'll get into the data privacy stuff a little bit later. So that's obviously an important thing, right? But just wanted to give Anna the chance as well to how are you applying these type of technologies in your bank today?
Yeah, so we have the behavioral data, and to make relevant or to make more relevant communication, this is a really game changer, because we can now respond on instant behavior on our website or in our mobile bank, and then we can give the customer the right communication. So, and that will feel so much more relevant, and we do see so much higher responses and clicks on whatever we will send out, and that's a really game changer.
I think just from my point of view as well, I think the danger there is also that we are not overusing that type of information, again, going into the relevance, right? Because technology allows us to do so much today, right? Now, on one side, we have obviously the legal limitations, what we are allowed to do, but then also from a customer experience point of view, you know, certain things we shouldn't be doing, right? Because then, you know, people feel like, you know, it's a bit weird, right? So why does a bank know about certain things, etc., right? So it's a balance between, you know, what actually makes sense versus what is possible from a technology point of view, which kind of leads to what you were saying before, and it's really important to have the right people who understand that concept of omnichannel and you know, next best action type of behavior, right? Now, obviously, all of this needs to make us money at some point, right? Otherwise, you know, nobody would invest in this, right? So, what would you say is the impact of personalization on the bottom line or the ROI, right? And Anna, you want to start with that?
I can start. Yeah. I think basically it is that we can use our time better. So we can, for instance, sell directly banking products like credit cards or car loans directly without having a person, an advisor, which usually is taking care of these kind of sales. And the other thing is that we can make it more effective to be an advisor. So if we do see a customer behavior and we get the customer to like confirm that he's interested in cars or a car loan, then we can send that lead. Or in a more complicated product like investing, we can send a warmer lead to the advisor. So when he or her calls out, it will have a much bigger hit rate, and then in the bottom line, it will be so much more effective, and they can use their time much better.
So it's a lot about efficiency at the end of the day as well, right? Yeah. Actually, adding to that, just one example that I know of one of our customers doing this as well. You know, being a bank, we all know that it's very challenging. You call into a call center, you have to do your identification. They ask you all sorts of questions to make sure that, you know, Andreas is really Andreas, right? So one of the innovative ideas is that you can use your mobile banking app and basically identify yourself through the mobile banking app using Face ID or whatever kind of identification. And then when you call the call center, you arrive already identified, right? Which I think is also a great step from a customer experience point of view. So just, you know, one other thing to share. So Navin, what's your point of making sure that we actually get ROI from those investments?
Yeah, sure, Andreas. So I think personalized customer experiences have a chain effect on the top line as well as ROI enhancement for businesses, and it all starts with loyalty. So when we make a personalized communication to a customer, it makes the customer feel emotionally connected with the business and the brand, and when they feel understood and valued, so they are more likely to remain loyal and continue doing business with us. And that leads to reduction in churn, because loyal customers are least likely to move away and go to competition. So when they stay with you, they're happy, satisfied. So it becomes very easy for us as businesses to cross-sell and upsell more relevant products and offers to them, because they understand that we understand their needs, their pain points. So this helps us to increase the lifetime value, which is the next point, in the sense that we can derive more revenue from our existing customers over the lifetime of the relationship that we have with them. And this leads to the last thing, the benefit I would say is free marketing, because if they are loyal, staying with you for a long time, happy, then they are most likely to recommend you to their friends and family or to their professional network, which is a word of mouth marketing. So that's, I think it goes a long way in increasing the ROI and top line.
So one of the things that just literally now just popped up in my mind, right? So obviously we have, when we look at the market where NA is active, which is Denmark, versus, where you are based, Navin, in India, right? It's obviously two completely different markets, right? Whereas I would say a lot of the European banking business, at least, it's a lot about retention, right? So obviously making sure, I use my customer experience so people don't jump away, right? Whereas in a market like India, it's also a lot about, generating new business, right? And I just thought about that and was wondering, do you have a view about, how do we have to approach this differently, right? Whether you are in like an emerging market where you need to more acquire businesses versus retaining businesses. Is there a different approach, or is it plus minus the same?
You're asking me, Andreas?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think you hit upon,
I hope you have an answer.
No, I do. I was not sure if Anne wanted to comment first, so I just clarified.
Go ahead.
So, no, that's fine. Yeah, I think, Andreas, you hit upon a very valid point. Each market is unique because of the very size of the market, the cultural background, the history, the regulations, and the overall nuances of doing business or conducting business in a country. As you rightly mentioned, I mean, Denmark could be different, US is completely different, India is even different. So depends on what business. So it could mean something for a bank, but it could mean something else for a retail company or for a telecom giant. So depending on which market geographically and what business you are in, I think the nuances would be different, and the strategy also will have to be tweaked accordingly to make the most of it.
Yeah, and I see in the chat that we have agreement from Duncan on this as well, right? That it definitely needs a different strategy. For Jyske Bank, and are you more in a retention kind of business, or are you trying to grow?
We are starting in the retention area. So this is where we are like developing our customer communication and digital sales. But I think you had some right points around the focus on retainment. Now I just before talked a lot about the effectiveness, but we would never push sales so hard that we would lose a customer, or at least we are trying to do it like that. Because we know that the lifetime value of a customer is worth more than a quick sales on a car loan or a credit card or whatever. And that's a really hard balance. So that's what we are practicing every day, not to step too far ahead and be too pushy. But at the same time, we should be better at selling digitally. So it's a balance, but never ever lose the long-term value of the customer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I think this is really what I see from my side as well, being active in different markets, right? It's also different countries react differently to how pushy you can be, right? In a lot of the Asian countries, for example, you can be a lot more pushy than in Europe, right? So it's really interesting to see, it's not one size fits all, right? How pushy you can be. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about, transforming obviously, to like the digital transformation. So digital is one side, right? Where we are saying we want to become, more digital, quicker, going into mobile apps, web page, and all these, different digital channels, right? But what do you think also, what comes along with that is also that we want to transform from a more product-centric approach that we undoubtedly had, like, let's say, 10 years ago or so, or even less than 10 years ago, into a more customer-centric approach, right? So what would you see as and because you've gone through this now, right? So what are the most critical milestones of transforming that business from a product-centric view to a customer-centric view?
We have to, first of all, we should start out like making some showcases that will convince top management that it is worth going this way. And when we have done that, then it's much more easy to get the people in the organization to work in the same direction, which is so hard when you're a big organization. So this like stakeholder management is also very important, and it's important that they see and understand the vision, and then should like keep them close along the way. So when you have that on board, then you're capable of building these customer journeys, which are much more customer centric because they are like using the behavioral data and is on whatever the customer is engaging with at the moment.
Yeah, so obviously, because you said really important the management buy-in, that they really understand, because at the end of the day, we can also not underestimate the fact that this actually costs quite a lot of money, not exactly. Not from a software point of view, but the organizational transformation and all of that. It's quite an expensive project, but it hopefully pays off, right? So Navin, any examples from your consulting work on how organizations have approached this?
Yes, absolutely. So I think first I would like to just more than agree to what Anne mentioned, the exec sponsorship on these shifts, and then to the point you mentioned, Andreas, about the taking into account the overall cost of the transformation and not just the software part. So I think with these two, I think the couple of things that I have come across is essentially the change required in the mindset or the culture of the organization, meaning that we had to make our customers wear the customer hat instead of the product hat. So instead of focusing on how cool my product is or what great features and functionalities it has, I think the mindset has to change to what is the value I am bringing to the customer, how am I solving their problems, how am I driving the outcomes with my products and offerings. So that mindset change is I think the first thing. And second is obviously the practical change on the ground, which means that different departments in the organization need to work in unison, rather than just saying, okay, this is not my job, this is your job. Instead of that, they have to discuss, agree, and come to a consensus on what is best for the customer. So that is, I think, those are the two most important things after what Anne and you said, Andreas.
Okay. Has that changed for, let's say, for Jyske Bank specifically, right? Has that now changed on how you analyze the market probably as well, right? So I'm talking more about, market analysis, right? So in the past, we would probably go out and do some analysis how credit card XYZ, would be received, right? Has this now changed how you're looking at the market and the focus of your analysis? What was kind of like the change on that side?
Yeah, we definitely scaled up our business intelligence, who was doing a lot of analytics down to these behavioral data and combining them with on-premise data or customer data. So they can make findings that weren't possible before, and that we might have to go in the market to get before. But I do think, though, that you still need the other part. So you cannot say it's not needed anymore with marketing analytics in the market as well. I think you need that, but you definitely can get some new insights using these kind of data.
And I think from my point of view as well, right? So we kind of, when we all know about the challenges we have with first-party data versus third-party data, and the challenges with third-party cookies and all of that, right? So from my experience, it's also become much more important to actually properly analyze first-party information, right? So what are customers doing, especially existing customers? What are they, how are they behaving, on your website? How, what kind of questions do they have for, the client advisors and all of that, right? And are you capturing that type of information in a structured way as well today?
I think you're asking me still, right, Andreas?
Yes. Sorry, you're the big picture. That's why I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, because I said something last time. Yeah, I do have these business intelligence people who will make these findings. I don't think we are so far on this journey yet. So I think we have some potential there that we haven't used for real. But definitely they are analyzing the data, and now they're into how can we then make some insights that they will understand in marketing, for instance. And I'm from marketing, and I need these people to do that analytics for me, because we cannot do that. So yeah, we're looking into it, but I don't think we have succeeded. Definitely, yeah.
So it's a work in progress,
yes.
Essentially, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, that keeps life interesting, right? That helps. So it's not getting boring. So, when we look at what we are doing with, customer experience, etc., right? So every industry is doing this differently, right? We have industries that are more advanced. We have industries that potentially lag a little bit behind, right? So, and Navin, what do you see as some of the key differences between different industries, say, financial services versus retail versus actually there's a lot of government type of customer experience activity going on as well at the moment, right?
Right. Yeah, so that's correct, Andreas. So depending on the industry, the approach and the perspective for customer experience management and enhancement definitely varies. So for example, if you take banking, the banks are heavily regulated, so they can't take as much liberty with the customer data as a retailer or a media or a telecom company can. Similarly, if you talk about maybe an insurance company, so there the focus is more on assessing the risk, so that they set the premiums at the right levels and they do not lead to a situation of revenue losses. So while they need to excite the customer, they also have to make sure if it is a risky customer which I'm onboarding, then I need to ask or charge him the right premium, which cannot be same for all customers. So that is their challenge. So and if it's a retailer, then their challenges are totally different. They worry more about product assortments, the pricing, the inventory, and enhancing customer satisfaction. So that is totally different ball game. So I think different industries definitely have different challenges, yet with a single mission of delighting their customers.
Excellent. Yeah. So I think this is, very, very different in different industries. And where are you looking to for inspiration? Are you looking at a different industry, or are you looking at other banks? Or?
Well, we look everywhere actually all the time, but I think you do get some great inspiration from the e-commerce industry, because they are so far ahead, because it's needed for them, and they are born within marketing automation, customer journeys, and so on. And we know that we are not an e-commerce company, but some of the stuff that they are doing, we can get inspired by, and how they build their stuff. So I think that's a really interesting area. And sometimes I think it's actually more important to look into some completely different industry than just other banks, because we are pretty much doing the same. So if you just should stand out a bit, you have to get inspiration from elsewhere, because in the end, the banking is just about size and money. So if you have enough money and your size is big enough, then it's hard. So you have to compete on other parameters.
So I'd like to pick up on this real quick as well, because you're saying, customer. So e-commerce obviously is, that they're very much leading the way, right? E-commerce has one very big advantage, as they're only online essentially, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas you have to combine online and offline channels, right? Where do you see the main challenges or pitfalls in bringing all of those together? Because if you don't bring them together, you will not have a seamless customer experience, right?
Exactly. We are working a lot on that, and especially it's like two-way. We have to all the time be the digital channels we have. It's not the biggest issue because we have quite good connections there, but still our advisors, they can still like call a customer and not look into the system and see that we just gave them a credit card, and then call out to talk about credit cards, for instance. So, but we're doing a whole lot of things, and we just launched actually a new overview of the customer for the advisors, so they all the time know what did the customer receive, what kind of communications, which channels, how did the customer respond, and when did he receive anything, and how did he respond, as well as they are also like putting some of the behavioral data out there. So that's like the one way. Then we have I think the most difficult issue for us is like getting what the advisor talks with the customer about return, because we do have some kind of systems to pick that up, but if you just sit there and call a customer and you don't make to register what you talked about, then we don't know, and that can like destroy the customer experience because we don't know. So that's what we're working on. So how can you design stuff that can easily pick that up? And we do have like 2/3 of our company is like the advisors, and the rest is back-end staff.
So it's really making sure that these advisors are sharing, the insights that they're getting from the customer as well, right? And not just keeping it to themselves, right?
Yes, yeah. And I think, the reason why we started the other way around is because it's like the part of the transformation that we are in, because we like went from the advisor being the one point of entry for the customer. So whenever the customer has a financial issue, he'll turn to the advisor. But now we are like changing that a bit, so we are more people, more channels that can communicate with the customer, but still the transformation is the argument for starting out in that way. So yeah.
How much resistance do you get, and how do you overcome? I'm assuming you get resistance, right?
Yeah.
How do you overcome that resistance? Do you have some sort of like an incentive for people to complete certain things, or how do you do that?
I think the resistance was like larger 5-7 years ago, so it's getting better because everybody knows that our customers are not dropping by our branches anymore. So the natural point to talk to the customer is non-existing. So I think many people and colleagues know that it's needed for us to do something else and do some digital stuff. And for instance, being quite present with relevant personalized messages in the mobile bank that both educate and get me the relevant messages is very important for us.
Yeah. Okay. Navin, anything to add from your side?
No, I think I do not have any additional points to add to what Anne already mentioned. So that quite covers.
Okay, excellent. So I wanted to kind of so we talked about online, we talked about offline, integrating all of those together, and then kind of the pitfalls and the challenges, right? One of the really big challenges is data privacy. Well, I'm just saying this now, right? I'm happy if somebody, objects to that, right? But so for a marketeer, data privacy, things like GDPR, CCPA, etc., are challenging, right? So what do you think, what role can a customer experience or a customer data platform play in that, right? How can we kind of fit into this to make sure that, how can technology help that, companies are, compliant or are transparent with those data privacy views? Navin, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a very important aspect with increasing regulations, as you mentioned, like GDPR and CCPA and many others, which actually impose huge penalties on organizations if there is any data breach. The last I know of, I think GDPR imposes almost 1% of the total annual revenue of a company for a single data breach. It is as stringent as that. So one can imagine that we need to be overly cautious about how we are using customer data, especially the PII data. But the good news is that CDPs, as I mentioned in the beginning, is a one-stop shop, which is not just a tool, but it's an entire platform which can manage everything and has a lot of versatile capabilities. So some of the things which a CDP can help in, I would say, mitigating these risks of regulations is anonymization. So a CDP can actually help in anonymizing customer data, making it less identifiable, while it can still be used for personalization, analysis, and customer experience. So the risk is very minimal, almost no risk there. So this is, I think, one thing where CDP can help. And second is the consent management. So, for example, a bank sends notifications to its customers for maybe a transaction, a high value transaction, or it also would be sending some promotional messaging at times if there is a special offer. So now a CDP can be used by a business, or for example a bank here, to manage in real time, where the customers can log on to the bank's website, which is connected in the backend with the CDP, and the customers can say, okay, I give you an approval to send me a notification message on my mobile phone, but not a promotional message. If you have to send a promotional or a marketing message, you please email it to me. Don't send it to my mobile, because mobile I only entertain very critical or short messages. So this is my preference. So the moment a customer updates his preference, it is updated in real time in the CDP. And whenever a new campaign is curated, planned, or sent out, so this campaign will actually take into factor or consideration the latest status of every single customer that the bank has, so that when the campaign is going out, it would only go, for example, if it is SMS notification, it will go to most who have signed up. But if it is a promotional email marketing, it will only go to those customers who at this point in time have given an approval for receiving submission. So this is the second way a CDP can really help businesses to comply to the global regulation norms.
Yes, we have some questions.
Yeah. Let me just quickly first go to Anne about GDPR and how Jyske Bank is dealing with that, and then we'll pick up on the questions. I see them popping up. Thanks, Ricardo.
Well, we are of course following all the GDPR legislations. That is, so that's not a question. It's just like that's how it is. But we of course ensure that we have the right consents, and the customer can always take back his consent. We've got different consents, both to consents that regards to behavioral tracking on the website and in the apps, as well as like the big company consent, where you like say yes, I want electronic promotion from your company. So yes, and then you can say we do all we can to keep our data on premise and as little data as possible in the cloud. So that's also like one of the parts of protecting data the best way we can.
And I think one, just adding from my point of view, one thing that is also really crucial is to be very transparent with your customers and prospects as to what are you doing with that information, right? If they get the feeling that, they know what's happening, and, I can be sure that that data not all of a sudden shows up somewhere, right? Or a third-party company has access to that information, then there is generally more willingness, I would say, to provide that information as well, right? Before we go into the questions, one quick question again to you, Anne. Do you see a different behavior with different demographics as to how open people are with, interacting, through these channels?
We do have quite some challenges to reach the young people one-to-one, because they're like not opening our emails, they're not like using text messages, they're not like using mail. So like integrations for social media and so on is something that we dream about, but in that specific place, the privacy regulations and being a bank is putting out a no-go, so that we are not capable of doing that, but we definitely dream about it. So yeah, there are some, I think being a bank, we would never ever give our data to any third party. We are like the only ones using this data. So yeah, so I think that's a bit different also from one industry to another.
Absolutely, yeah. So you touched on an interesting topic on social media and all of that, but we don't have time to cover all of that. We could be talking a lot more. So I see a couple of questions, right? So before we I wanted to ask you about some of the key learnings as well, but let's just go through the questions first. So I think the first question is probably mostly for you, Anne. Just going to read that. It says, there are over 150 different CDPs on the market. I would be curious how the bank was able to sift through a lot of noise and decide on the CDP that's right for them. Any tips or advice on not just the selection of the CDP, but how to have the right team and people in place to make the most out of the new capabilities?
Okay. Well, I think I can answer parts of this question. We do have SAS as our CDP, and we do have a SAS in the house or in the company for like 10-15 years. So their technology has just like, it was really natural that it would of course also be a SAS institute that we would use for the CDP, because we had so many connectors and so much data that already were processed by SAS products. So we actually didn't do this really large CDP or market information or analysis, because we just along the way made those choices that we like have been ending up like this. And there is a lot of so I think my advice is to look at your tech stack and find out which should be the leading tech in your tech stack, and then because we have to like centralize as much as possible, and for that you need this one platform that can make everything come together. So that's what I would do. Look into your landscape and decide, is there anything in there already that I can like scale up, or should I go out in a big analysis? And I think that's a tough one, but of course that's needed sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. And what about the right team and people in place? Maybe you can share some experience, right? Have you kind of worked with the people you already have and found that the easiest way, or did you have to change people, or
We focus a lot on developing the people we have, so that's what we did. But we do, in the beginning when we were getting into this area, we are having some consultants on the projects that we have, and they helped us like build the first customer journeys. And then they actually, when the project ended, they actually disappeared or was just on the distance. And that's also a quite important learning, because that was a bad thing, because it was really hard for the people to learn all the new stuff, because it's a new way of thinking, a new way of building, and everything is new. So actually now we've gone back to getting some consultants in our house, inside, physically sitting together with the people, just to learn and to like make us better. So like we want to upgrade our people to this new world of working.
Yeah. Okay. Navin, you do a lot of digital transformation consulting work as well. What's your view on? So obviously you help companies select CDP technology, right? But then also, you do ongoing consulting around best practices, etc. Right? What would you say? What is the, what's like a best practice approach, maybe, if somebody wants to start that journey?
Yeah, I think I agree. Like Anne mentioned, it was relatively easier for her to select SAS CDP because they already have majority of their tech stack as SAS being used for 15 years. So very rightly they went for SAS CDP because the data has to be connected, centralized, and it's seamless. Native connectivity is the best. So I think it made a very natural choice for them. But anyone who is actually starting afresh on the journey of evaluating and selecting a CDP, a new CDP altogether, I think the couple of factors which should be kept in view while doing that exercise would obviously be if you are maybe depends on the size. If you're a small business, then I think you can start with some lightweight flavors of the CDP. For example, SAS offers different modules of that, which could be for example, plan or discover or digital and engage and so on. So you can take one small step at a time. Start with the lightweight flavors of the over the larger solution, and as soon as you get your hands on the technology, the adoption increases and the data volume increases, you onboard more customers, you can keep adding additional modules. So the first advice is to go modular. Instead of big bang, you can take baby steps. That's one. And second is also keep in mind the objective. What is your business goal? So aligning your selection process with your business goals would also be very valuable for your organization in terms of both the capital, the investment, as well as the business results that you draw from that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So next question is probably also for you, Navin. The question is how to structure data governance in such an extended data architecture to be sure insights gathering takes place fluently and consistently. Well, that can be answered by any one of you. Whoever wants to answer it goes first.
I'm sorry, Andreas, can you just come again with the question once more?
How to structure data governance in such an extended data architecture to be sure insights gathering takes place fluently and consistently. Okay, got that. Yeah, I can definitely attempt this one because we keep doing this exercise for our customers. So yeah, I think the question is very, very valid and it's a great question. So yeah, I mean, we have data regarding our customers, their transaction behaviors, their histories and everything across different systems. So we may have a CRM, we may have an ERP, we may have a loan engine or an insurance policy admin system and whatnot. And all of these systems may be totally different, and the type of data obviously is different in all of these in terms of structure.
And also the formats could be different. For example, policy information would be most likely in the form of maybe PDF documents, the issued policies. The customer data, KYC data may be in form of tables and so on. There could be some scanned physical forms as well, or some claims would be maybe in form of a photograph taken by a phone and then uploaded to the claim site. So with the myriads of data types, sources, formats, it's a nightmare actually to bring it all together and make sense of it. So I think the one solution which comes to rescue here is a data lake where you can actually store all the sorts of data that you have in the organization, and then you create separate data marts which are highly curated in nature, meaning that one data mart would have all the data, related data, which could be used in one way or similar ways with similar or matching formats. So out of one data lake, you can actually create 5, 10, 20 or 100 data mart depending on the business use cases that you want to drive from the data. So the short answer is have a data lake first, which will have all the raw data, and then you create data marts based on your business use cases.
Perfect. Thank you. Next one again for Anne. What is the role of data science teams in an advanced data infrastructure? Do you have centralized data science teams, supporting consultancies, etc.? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we do have our business intelligence team, which is outside marketing, and that's the people processing and analyzing the data. And they get back to us with recommendations on campaigns we could do or behavior that we should react on. But we, of course, also ourselves look into the data. We do have different reports that we build it, or they build for us. So we, by ourselves, can look into what are the behavior and where do we have the most traffic and how does the customer react.
Okay, so a dedicated team essentially to do that. Right? Yeah. Okay. Good. Next question. How do you ensure a contextful and rich experience with the masses of dispersed underlying data? Do you employ technologies like real-time data streaming, etc.? Right? So, Anna, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I can do that. We haven't been there where it's very urgent that we need real-time data, but we do have highly frequent data. So our data is like updated very differently. So some data is like monthly updated, some is weekly, some is daily, and some is more times a day. So it depends totally on what communication or what campaign we are developing on, what kind of data frequency we should look into. But sometimes, we could dream of real-time data and it's on the roadmap as well, but it's not the most urgent place for us to start. We can wait for a day or half a day sometimes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think also, that's what I see from my experience as well. So real-time information is obviously, it's really great, it's wonderful, but it's also very expensive. Right, on a technology side, right? So you really have to kind of weigh up, the balance, right? And it's to Navin's point before, start small and then kind of grow. And real time would definitely come more towards the end of the journey, and not at the beginning of the journey, right? So last question here: have you considered alternatives to CDP for your customer data strategy objectives? I am not sure I understand the question 100% myself. So, any Navin and any views on that? Alternatives to CDP?
Yeah,
well,
I think. Sorry,
please, Navin.
Anne, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, please, Navin.
Okay, so I think Andreas, the sense I make out of this question is what is being asked is whether Anne went for CDP directly, or did they consider maybe some other technological alternatives or cheaper alternatives to a CDP? Because as you rightly mentioned, Andrea, that this is an expensive piece of technology, not just the software part, but the implementation, the people, the processes, the transformation, and everything, right? So the question is whether you went for CDP directly as a natural choice, you were clear about it, or whether you went for some stopgap arrangement, maybe a lighter version of something else which could do something similar to a CDP, but not maybe having the same capabilities as full-blown CDP. That is, I think, the question. So my answer based on my experience would be, as I said, if you are not a very large or even a medium business and you only have a handful of customers, you're just starting on your business journey, then probably going big bang with a full-blown CDP may not be making much sense. So if a business is small, starting off with limited customer onboarding, I think they can look for an alternative. But eventually, when they grow up, they will have to get onto a CDP, whether it's SAS CDP or something else, but a CDP per se.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We're running out of time. It's already 2 o'clock. The hour is already gone. So I would just like to wrap up real quick and go with, any last wise words, as in best practice, key learnings, etc. And anything you would like to say to close?
Yeah, I think I'll just sum up a bit of what I already said today. Dream big, start small. When you design your customer journeys, I think that's a learning I would like to have heard before we got started. And then again, fail fast or learn fast. Get something out to live and find out how it works instead of like building the perfect thing. It's much more difficult just to get out there than you think. And then, of course, good customer journeys happens when you combine behavioral data with all your other data, because that's where you can create the best customer experiences.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Navin?
Yeah, I think my final few words would be, I think would resonate with what Anne said. Dream big, start small, and to start small, you don't have to wait. You can always look up to SAS Plan, SAS Discover, SAS Digital, which help you to already start looking at the kind of customers who are visiting your website or your apps, what kind of behaviors they are showing, what kind of transactions they are doing, which part of your website or app they are spending most time on. So you can do this initial analysis of the behavior of your customers to plan and align to your business strategy. And then once you grow, you can start getting into personalization and then real time and intelligent decisioning as well later. So you could take this journey into 2 parts, starting small and then going big.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you both very, very much for this very insightful discussion today. If people would like to get in touch with you, obviously we all have LinkedIn. Any preferred way? Anything else? Or is people
LinkedIn
happy
is
to
just
reach
fine.
out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
LinkedIn's perfect. Yeah.
Wonderful. Good.
So much.
Thank you
everyone.
both very much. Ricardo, any last words from your side?
We have other questions, but unfortunately we cannot cover that. So I'm a bit sad about that, but I understand the time limitations. So next time people can approach Anne and Mr. Navin and also Andreas in the LinkedIn, so it will be easier for them to get answers from those questions that we did not answer.
Oh.
Good. Excellent. Well, and thank you very much. And
go for it. You, Andreas, please. Sorry.
Oh, good. No, we're fine. Thank you. Thank you very much again for your time to listen to us, and to Anne and Navin. Thanks a lot for your contribution here. And everyone have a wonderful, lovely afternoon or evening for you, Navin.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.